How do we find our specific mission in life? Our sages tell us that each individual at the Sinai revelation experienced both a collective revelation, but also a specific revelation. There were 600,000 souls present at Sinai, and there were 600,000 individual bespoke revelations. Each soul, of course, is part of the collective Torah. Each soul is obligated to fulfill the collective Torah, what we call the 613, all the laws, all the details. But there's something specific that the Almighty endowed each soul to fulfill. There's a specific mission that each soul has that they are obligated to fill. It carries Sinaitic weight. And the biggest problem that someone who recognizes this has is that although it's not easy to fulfill the whole Torah, but at least we know what to do. There's a book, Shulchan Aruch, the set table. You want to read how to live as a Jew? You want to fulfill every detail of the Torah? You want to do exactly what the Almighty asks of you in a general way? You could do that. You find the laws. It's all spelled out. It's all explicated. But if we're told that everyone has to chart their own path in life, and everyone is different, everyone's one of a kind, an endangered species with only one living member, everyone has a different soul with a different specific mission, how do you identify what that is? How do you find your mission? How do you find your path? We can look at our responsibility as being twofold. There's the general requirements, what we could call the Torah that the nation received at Sinai, the Torah that we have. And there's a specific something for each individual. What is asked of me is not exactly what was asked of Abraham, or of the Rambam, or of Rashi, or of anyone of the other people who have ever lived. There's something specific on top of the general requirements. There's something specific that each individual must fulfill. How do you find that? How do you identify your mission in life? There's a very famous comment by the Gaon of Vilna in his commentary to Proverbs, where he tells us that in antiquity, our nation had lots of prophets. How many prophets? So we know the names of 48 male prophets and 7 female prophets. And we have the works of these prophets. But the Talmud tells us that there were double the amount of prophets as there were people who left Egypt. Do the math. 600,000 souls leave Egypt. Double that, 1.2 million prophets over the course of history. And we know the name of a tiny fraction of the total collected cohort of prophets. So what did all the other prophets do? What did the run-of-the-mill standard issue prophet do? Every land, every tribe, every city had prophets. What did they do? There were schools designated and designed and engineered to train prophets. What was the role of a prophet? The Gaon of Vilna tells us the role of a prophet was to be able to understand exactly the origin and the mission of every soul and to chart a path for every individual, not in how to fulfill the general requirements that are placed upon every Jew, but to identify for them what their specific root soul is and what they specifically must fulfill. So for 1,000 years following Sinai, says the Gaon of Vilna, this wasn't a problem. You wanted to live properly. You want to do exactly what the Almighty wants of you, and not to omit or skip or ignore anything. So you follow the Torah with all of its details. And you go to the prophet, and you spend time with the prophet. And the prophet identifies for you exactly what your soul in particular must fulfill. So you're able to do both the general requirements and find that one area, that one corner, that one element that you specifically are tasked with fulfilling. Prophecy goes extinct at the beginning of the Second Temple era, and ever since then, we're like blind people groping in the dark. There's a prayer that we say every day multiple times where we beg God to return the offices, the institutions of yore. Hashiva shovteinu kavarishona. Return, restore our judges like the earlier times. V'yoatzenu kivatchila. And our counsels, our advisors, like the beginning. Vehaser mimenu yagon v'anachan. Remove from upon us anguish and despair. What's the connection between the restoration of judges and the restoration of councils and the removal of anguish and despair? Our sages tell us that the judges, they were the ones who adjudicated law. The councils, those are the ones who provided bespoke guidance for every individual. And absent that, we have anguish and despair. We don't know what to do. We know that there's something that's demanded of us, each individual. And we have a lot of sources to this effect, that if a person, God forbid, were to neglect their individual calling, their individual mandate, they're in big trouble. Because the judgment post-mortem, the heavenly judgment, the heavenly tribunal is about this. Did you fulfill the specific mission for which you were created? But what is that? I don't know. There's no book. Or maybe there is. But apparently there's no book to find the answer. That's very anguishing. That causes despair. And we pray every day, restore that office, those counselors that can provide the guidance and the direction. We're placed here to do a specific mission. And we're blind. We're not informed. We don't have direction. We don't have counsel. And everyone hopes and everyone wishes to find a book, an instruction manual, a step-by-step guide that can direct each person upon the correct path for them. If only there was a book. If only. Well, I have good news for you. I have good news. There is a book. Yes, there is a book. It's referenced in Genesis, chapter 5, verse 1. Ze Sefer, this is the book, Toldos Adam, of the Chronicles of Man, or of Adam. So the first book that we see mentioned in Scripture is a book called Toldos Adam, the Chronicles of Man, or of Adam. Now, what does this mean? The Talmud tells us. In multiple places, there's a book. And it's called the Chronicles of Adam, or of Man. And it's a book that the Almighty showed Adam. And in it, it lists every generation and its influencers and its wise people. It lists all the future generations of Adam. And Adam was allowed to peruse it. And the Talmud tells us that he made one comment. He was going generation to generation to generation and reading about all the people that are going to exist and make an impact in each generation. And the Talmud tells us that when he got to the generation of Rabbi Akiva, Samach b'Torah, he was gladdened, he was joyous with his Torah, i.e. with Rabbi Akiva's Torah. v'nis atzev b'misaso. But he was saddened with his death. Okay, there's a book, Genesis chapter 5, verse 1. It's called Toldos Adam, the Chronicles of Adam or of Man. And God showed it to Adam, and it contains data, information about future people, future movers and shakers, the descendants of Adam. And the Talmud tells us he had one observation. He was happy with the Torah of Rabbi Akiva, but he was sad with the unfortunate and grisly and barbaric death of Rabbi Akiva. That's what the Talmud tells us. You open up some of the other books, like the Midrash and the Zohar, we find other observations. We find that Adam noticed a different descendant of his, someone named David. And Adam saw that his descendant David was designated to live for only 3 hours. He was going to die very, very young. And he makes a comment to God that this future descendant of his, this David, he's not going to live a very long life. And is there any way to fix it? Any way to remedy the very truncated life of David? And God tells him, no, this is my plan for David. I want him to live only for 3 hours. Okay, so Adam persists. He says to God, well, how many years did he designate for me? And God tells him 1,000 years. And then Adam asks, is it possible to give a gift? Are there gifts in heaven? And God says, yes. So Adam tells God, this is found in the sources, please take 70 years allotted to me and give it to David. And the sources tell us that they brought a document, a contract, and it's signed, and God signed on it, whatever that means, and the angels signed on it. Adam, in this book, in him witnessing his future descendants, he makes one amendation. David will live not for 3 hours, but for 70 years plus 3 hours. That's the one entry that the Midrash and the Zohar tell us. Adam took action regarding David. He gifted him life. Now, we find many other references to this book. So, for example, the Midrash tells us that there's a whole swath of people in every generation that Adam was able to witness. The influencers, the benefactors, the leaders, the prophets, the strong ones, even the criminals, the pious ones, the good people, the bad people, everyone. In every generation, Adam was able to foresee. In another version of the Midrash, we find that Moshe also was privy to this book. And he saw every future generation and its judges and its kings and its wise ones and its leaders and so on. There's a very important book, and it could be very helpful in our discussion. If someone wants to know what mission they are tasked with, what their soul in particular needs to do, if they could find their entry in that book, they would know the answer. Now, how do I know that? We are reading now about the tabernacle. And there was a surprising choice for who was going to lead the efforts to build the tabernacle and all of its vessels. And the verse tells us, chapter 31 of Exodus, God tells Moshe, Re'eh, behold, I have designated by name Betzalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, to the tribe of Judah. Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, to the tribe of Judah, to the tribe of Judah. He's going to be the overseer, the general manager of the entire operation of building the tabernacle and its vessels. And he's going to have a lieutenant, Ahaliav ben Achisamach, and many other volunteers, but Bezalel is responsible. And the way he's introduced is Re'eh, see, behold, behold, Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, to the tribe of Judah. And the commentaries say, wait a minute, like, why is he introduced in this dramatic fashion? God could say, God tells Moshe, okay, Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, he's the one who's in charge of building the tabernacle. Re'eh, see, behold, something in that word that catches our attention, and the commentators all talk about it. So the Ramban says, he says, Bezalel, like he was a polymath. He was a Renaissance man because he knew everything. If you think about today, they have so much specialization, right? The people who are really, really good typically have a very narrow band of expertise. They're the number one source in this particular area of wisdom or scholarship or aptitude in whatever field. But to find someone who is the best in so many different disciplines, that is a sight to behold. And this is compounded by the fact that the nation, just a few months prior, they were slaves. And they engaged in harsh labor of making bricks, not in the delicate and precise skills of jam cutting, of intricate embroidery, precision skills. You think of someone who, pours cement and someone who makes movements for high-end watches. It works with very, very fine instruments and in a very delicate field. Those are very different types of skills. And you don't expect someone who works in coarse materials to have any aptitude in these very delicate and intricate areas of work. But Bezalel, he was an expert in all the different areas. Not only that, he knew the secrets behind all the vessels. The tabernacle had thousands of vessels, thousands of different parts to it. Each one is secrets upon secrets upon secrets. And Bezalel is a wonder. He's someone to behold, to marvel at. If you didn't see it for yourself, you wouldn't believe it. A slave recently released is such a Renaissance man, such a polymath, such an expert in so many different domains. He was a true phenom. A wunderkind. Now, he happened to have also been only 13, which makes it even more unbelievable. Re'eh, see, behold this unexpected sight of such talent, such unexpected talent. That's the first interpretation of the Ramban. And then Ramban offers another interpretation. He cites the Midrash. Re'eh. So we translate it as see or behold. What does it mean to see? It means literally to see something. God showed Moshe a book. Which book? This book, the book of Adam. And he said, look, let's find the entry of our generation. Oh, Bezalel, what does it say? Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, that descendant of Adam. It says he's the one who's the right guy to build the tabernacle. He was created already since the times of Adam. It was always the plan that Bezalel will build the tabernacle. Re'eh literally means see it. See, I'm showing it to you in the book. On page 8012. I don't know that for sure. I'm going to categorically deny having ever seen that book. But Re'eh, says the Ramban, according to the Midrash. See, look, in the actual book. That's what it says. He's the right guy. Obviously, it's in the book. Bezalel, since the times of Adam, thousands of years prior. He was already in the book. He was already written down, enshrined in the book, and therefore he must be the right person for the job. How did Bezalel know which mission he had in life? Well, he was in the book, right? Moshe saw the book, and therefore the Torah tells us, look in the book. That's what it says. That's what it says, and that he's the right guy for the job. So we see that this book can guide a person into finding their particular path in life. So I think if we had access to this book, if we could just take a little glimpse into our own entry, we would know the answer to our question. We wouldn't even need the prophet. We wouldn't have any anguish or despair. We would know exactly what career path, what specific area to focus on. Of course, everyone must observe all of it. We know that, 613, and all the details, every jot and tittle of the Shulchan Aruch, for sure. But Bezalel is the one to build the tabernacle. And Rav Ashi is the one to write the Talmud. And every one of us has some mission, probably a lot smaller, but something that we are commanded to do, that we are tasked with. That's our entry in the book of the Chronicles of Adam. We can find what we need to do. We could also find what we don't need to do. Yes. The Talmud tells a story of a physician who was a great sage. He was such a great physician and such a great sage that he appears hundreds of times in the Talmud. But he was also the physician of Rabbi Judah the Prince. His name was Shmuel. You'll find his name probably maybe 1,000 times in the Talmud. He was one of the founders of the Babylonian Torah world. And the Talmud tells a story that he was serving in his youth as the physician of Rabbi Judah the Prince. And it tells a story about how he healed him. And the Talmud is addressing that Shmuel, who's this very talented physician, but also the greatest Torah sage of his era, or one of them, he's called Shmuel and not called Rabbi Shmuel because he never received ordination. And the Talmud says that every time there was an effort to try to ordain Shmuel, it didn't work out. No matter what was tried, it just didn't work out. It doesn't tell us what happened, it just didn't work out. And Shmuel says, he says, don't even try. Don't try to ordain me. It won't work. I know I will not be ordained as a rabbi. Why? Because I saw a book. I saw a book. Which book? The book of the Chronicles of Adam. And I found my own entry. And it says, Shmuel, Yarchinai. This person, Shmuel, Chacham Yisteri. He will be deemed a Chacham, a wise one. Meaning he'll be talented, people will consult him, he'll be a physician. Verebi lo yiskari, but he will not be called a rabbi. So no matter what you try, I know it's already preordained, foreordained since the times of Adam. I'll have a role, I'll have greatness, I'll have distinction, I'll be a wise one, but it will not be a rabbi. So there's a book, and it has all the answers to our dilemma, to our anguish and despair. It's a book featured in the Torah. It's the Chronicles of Adam. And it lays out, it delineates exactly the mission and responsibilities, the individual mission and responsibility of all of Adam's descendants. We don't have prophets. We're a non-profit organization. No problem. We have a workaround. It's called this book. And here's the problem. There's nowhere to find it. They haven't found this book or a copy of this book anywhere. From my research, I found references to only 3 people seeing their entry or seeing the book at all. We're told that Adam saw it, and Moshe saw it, Adam saw it, and he was given insight to all his future descendants, and he made a comment about Rabbi Kiva, and he made an intervention with David. And Moshe saw it. Moshe was shown, oh, Betzalel, he's the one who's going to build the tabernacle. Look, it says in the book. And Shmuel, who lived about the year 200 of the Common Era, he saw it. You won't be a rabbi. How did he see it? It seems very strange that, Adam, of course, but Moshe, and then for 1,500 years, no one has access to this book. And one person that we know of, Shmuel, he saw it. How did he see it? How did he catch a glimpse? There's no record as far as I'm aware. Let me know. rabbiwolfram.com. You find another reference to someone seeing this book. No reference of any of the prophets, not David himself, and not Solomon, and not Joshua, and not Elijah the prophet, and not Ezra the scribe. No one saw this book. Moshe was shown by God. Adam was shown by God. And Shmuel, somehow, he got a copy, or at least he got a glimpse into his own entry. Is there any way for us to catch a glimpse into our own entry? Can we peek into the entry in our? Can we peek into our entry in the book? It's a very classified work. God showed it to Adam. God showed it to Moshe. No one really knows how Shmuel read his entry. And I looked at the commentators. One of the commentators posits that maybe he was shown this in a dream. Shmuel, he was really qualified. He's one of the great sages in the Talmud. And for whatever reason, every time there was an attempt to ordain him, it didn't work out. So heaven showed him in a dream to not worry, don't fret too much about trying to get the ordination. It's not going to work out. So maybe that's how he saw it. I want to suggest that there's a way for us to see our entry into the book. And what I'm going to propose is very logical. It makes a lot of sense. And when I'm going to say, you're like, oh, that makes a ton of sense, and that's so obvious. The insight that I want to develop is not just that there's an obvious way to find your entry in the book, but also when you find that entry, it's actually the entry. You probably think, oh, he's overselling it again. But let me know when we're done. Is this persuasive? Betzalel was 13 years old. He's a kid. And he has all these remarkable abilities. Imagine his shock when Moshe says to him, Betzalel, you're the one to build the tabernacle. The whole nation's going to come and try to help you, but you're the one who's responsible. And how did Moshe know that Betzalel was the right guy for the job? Well, God told him. And specifically, God said, Re'eh, see, look, in the book of Adam, it has every generation and its shakers and movers and important people. And there's an entry that's clearly labeled. Betzalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, to the tribe of Judah, builder of tabernacle and its vessels. He was preordained for this role. Here's the insight. In chapter 31 of Exodus, God is speaking to Moshe. And God says, look, behold, Betzalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, he's the one to build the tabernacle. That's in chapter 31 of Exodus. Moshe is told by God. In chapter 35, Moshe is speaking to the people. And Moshe is telling them, he's informing them about the appointment of Betzalel. And we have almost identical verses. Chapter 31, verse 2, Re'eh, this is God speaking to Moshe, behold, karasi b'shem. I have called out by name, just literal translation. Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur Mata Yehuda. Betzalel son of Uri, son of Hur, son of the tribe of Judah. Chapter 35, verse 30, almost an identical verse. Vayomer Moshe el bnei Yisrael. Re'u. Re'u is re'eh, just to the masses, right? Re'u kara Hashem b'shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur Mata Yehuda. God says, behold, I have called by name, I've identified by name. And Moshe says, behold, God has identified by name. It's the exact same verse. There's a perfect symmetry between what God told Moshe and what Moshe told the nation. But here's the problem. When God told Moshe, Re'eh, see, behold, he showed him the book. So the Midrash says, Rabban quotes the Midrash. So when Moshe goes to speak to the nation, he didn't show them the book, as far as we know. He didn't have the book. He certainly did not show the book to the nation. So how come he uses the exact same words, re'eh or re'u, see, behold, God chose Betzalel, if this way of structuring the verse, re'eh, see, behold, means see the book, did Moshe show the book to the nation? It's hard to believe. It's hard to imagine. So here's my theory. There are two ways to see the entry in the book. There's one way where if God were to show it to you, God showed it to Adam, God showed it to Moshe, maybe God showed it to Shmuel, the great sage physician, but not a rabbi, maybe in a dream. Maybe there's a way to see it just prophetically. But I want to suggest that there's another way to see it. You could actually see it. You could see the entry in the book without ever seeing the book. Moshe tells the nation, Re'u, see. See in the book. I'm not going to show you the book, but you'll still see in the book. You'll see, and you'll know for sure that Betzalel is in the book, even though you will never see the book. Because Moshe continues. And Moshe spends 5 verses delineating the immense skill set of Betzalel. He tells the nation, this is verse 31 of chapter 35. Vayimale oso, he was filled, Ruach Elokim, with the Spirit of God. Bechachma, with wisdom, betfuna, with insight, bedas, with knowledge, uvechol melacha. In every craft. Every craft. Every craft. Not a single craft Betzalel was not completely proficient in. V'lachsho machshavos, and to make designs. Bezahav, bakesef benchoshes, to design, to make gold, silver, and copper. And to cut stones. And to carve wood. And to do work in every designer craft. And also to give instruction, to be a leader of men. He was endowed with great skill in every work, as a carver, as a designer, as an embroiderer, in blue wool and purple wool and crimson wool, in fine linen, as a weaver, as a worker of all crafts, as a maker of all designs. Moshe spends 5 verses where he overviews the immense skill set of Betzalel. Moshe, I want to propose, did show them the book and its entry on Betzalel. He just did it in this circuitous way. He laid out all of Betzalel's qualifications. How does someone who is a recently released slave, only 13 years old, how did he have this very specific set of abilities? Who gave that to him? Obviously, he got them from God. They're God-given. Why would God give all the precise skills needed to do everything needed to build the tabernacle? Unless, there's no other reason why, unless God wanted Bezalel to do that, he wouldn't have had the exact skill set to do just that. Moshe, he did show the nation the entry of Bezalel in the book of Adam. Look at it. Bezalel has the exact skill set needed to do this. The only reason why Bezalel will be given by God this particular constellation of skills, it's only for the purposes of using those skills. And those skills are a perfect match for what's needed to build the tabernacle. Moshe's telling the nation, I can't show you the book directly, but I can show you the book indirectly. You can reverse engineer Bezalel's entry in Adam's chronicle by examining the particular skill set that the Almighty endowed him with. All of us can also, I want to posit, we could also find our entry, a glimpse, take a peek into that hallowed book. When someone has natural gifts, abilities, skills, talents, it's from God. Why did God give that to you? Why do you have different skills than other people? You were given skills that are a perfect match to your mission. Whatever mission the Almighty prepared you to do, whatever mission the Almighty endowed your soul with at Sinai, whatever is the bespoke instruction that you need, the bespoke mission that you were designated to fulfill, that will always parallel the particular skills that you were endowed with. Maybe when Shmuel was shown the book and the book said, well, he'll be a wise one, but he won't be a rabbi, maybe it wasn't in a vision or a dream. Maybe he was able to intuit what it said about him in Adam's book by examining his own skill set and finding that he was not designed for the formal rabbinate. Maybe he saw his book the same way the nation saw what it said about Bezalel in the book. And maybe, just maybe, this can be the answer for us as well. Once you know, and once you see the abundant sources that tell us that the Almighty expects something specific out of every individual. Generally, we have a generic mission, and that's to fulfill every part of the Torah. But there's also something that's specific and completely unique to every individual. And the only way to find the answer is either if a prophet tells you, or if you find your entry in a book that no one can get access to. Here we find a back door. A back door. You can get a glimpse, catch a glimpse, a peek into this book. If you find your skills and you understand exactly what part of God's agenda, as it were, can these skills match? You know, you could see it in the book. You know what it is that you are expected to do. I said it's a simple idea. The idea is, well, find something to do in life that matches what you are particularly good at. Maybe that's why it's not such a groundbreaking insight. But I want to propose that it's more than that. It's not just, oh, if you find your skill set, now you know what life path to take in a specific way. It's more than that. Now you know what you were commanded to do, what your soul was endowed with at Sinai, with a particular mission that you will be held to task if you don't fulfill. The sources talk about what happens to the soul gets to the heavenly tribunal. And the sources tell us that if the soul fulfilled every part of the Torah, but did not identify something unique to it, it didn't find its name, as it were. The name is what separates one thing from another thing, right? That's what a name is. A name, in a spiritual sense, is what is unique about you. If the soul doesn't know its name, it hasn't identified its particular mission, it's in big, big trouble. I don't want to get too graphic, but it's not pleasant. You were given whatever you need to do to find that mission. Because after all, that mission is a perfect match to your skills and talents and ability. We have to know our faults. We have to know our shortcomings, our flaws, to fix them. And we're in trouble. Woe to one who does not know their faults. You don't know what you need to fix. But woe and double woe to those who don't know their skills, who don't know their talents, who never discovered what makes them unique and what tools they were given. And now we know why, because those are a perfect match to your entry. Moshe could show the nation Batal's entry by simply listing all the different skills that are a perfect match for the mission of building the tabernacle. They know for sure. They didn't see the book, but they knew for sure what it said in the book. Each one of us, I believe, there's an entry with our name in this book. We don't have a prophet. We're a nonprofit organization. So there's anguish and despair. How do I know what I'm supposed to do in life? There's a book that has the answers. And we can't read it directly, but we can read it indirectly. And if we do so, please God, we'll be informed with what we need to do to fulfill our specific mission in life. And then we will have no anguish and no despair. I would like to hear your feedback. If you want, you can always send me an email, rabbiwolbe@gmail.com.